I mean, I don't know that we're always going to need it, but like analog watches are like in again, I guess.
Let me rephrase. We're going to need it for the remainder of our lifetimes.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think analog watches are going away before we kick it.
Yeah.
Maybe in the grand scheme of things. But I don't know. We'll talk more about the end of the world on this episode.
Right.
Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music through the lens of our favorite artists' discographies. My name's Matt Kistler.
And I'm Troy Sennett.
And today we're continuing our series on Chicago band Rise Against. We're talking about this is their sixth album?
Yeah, sixth album.
Endgame. Yeah. We're talking about Endgame. The one that I have said out loud has god-awful art. I'm not sure if it's worse than Appeal to Reason, but whatever. We'll get into that later, or maybe not. This album was released on March 15th, 2011, once again on DGC, Interscope Records. We're still in our major merger era here, and I believe continue to do so for most of the rest of their career, so we don't need to worry too much about that. Once again, found ourselves produced by Bill Stevenson and Jason Livermore, the Dream Team, on production, same on mixing with Chris Lord-Alge, and once again mastered by Ted Jensen. So you kind of know how that's going to sound to a degree, but I feel like as we'll get into a little bit more deeply here, we have some different flavors of guitar music happening here. But Troy, can you tell me a little bit about where you were when this album came out?
Yeah, so this is, I think this album comes at like a time that I remember so vividly, because this is like, it felt like forever to me between Appeal to Reason and this album. I think it is the longest they had taken between records, at like 2.5 years.
Yeah, like 3 full years, yeah. Or
2.5, I think. But yeah, so, you know, Appeal to Reason comes out when I'm a junior in high school, and then Endgame is out when I'm a freshman in college, and so like my tastes have changed so much. My entire life is completely different, basically. And I remember that I wasn't like thinking about Rise Against that much. I had been kind of cool on Appeal to Reason when it came out. But I remember they released I want to say they released Architects as like a soft single or whatever, like not like a music video or an official single or anything, but it was just up on Absolute Punk.
Yeah, I think they said that it was like the second song they shared, I think, was the phrase.
Yeah, something like that. But it was early on, and I remember that song just like, when we talk about the song specifically, I will go into it more, but that song just knocked me out, and I was like, oh, I'm excited about this band again. And the album, I don't think, lived up to that excitement. But it definitely was like, I was still into the band. I saw them for the first time on the Endgame tour, so just a few months after that in May of 2011. So like my general excitement about the band wasn't really tempered by this album, but I think that the album is not great. And it was not something that I went back to much outside of thinking that Architects is like an incredible, incredible song. And there's a couple other highlights on it. But this is not like the top tier, or I mean, this is where I kind of really jump off the Rise Against bandwagon, I think. You know, when these albums are coming out. What about you? Did you even like listen to this one when it came out?
I definitely did. Like I own a copy of this album. I'm pretty sure I bought it on release day. I think Kyle and I went to the Best Buy and like purchased this because we were both bumming around Crystal Lake post college at this point.
Was this the last album you bought at a Best Buy?
This was definitely not the last album I bought at a Best Buy. Much like many things in life, the last album I bought at Best Buy was not a thing I remember because I didn't realize it was the last album I was going to buy at Best Buy.
I only asked because mine was in the fall of 2010, and I weirdly do like remember that it was the last album that I bought at Best Buy, which was Invented by Jimmy Eat World.
That's a good one, honestly.
Yeah.
If this was the last one, I might not want to own up to it. That's okay. Not true. That implies really heavily that I hated this album, and I didn't hate this album. I think much like you, I don't know if I had heard Architects prior to this. I know I heard Help Is On The Way was the first single, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I had definitely heard that. I don't know that I had heard Architects, but I remember when I put this in the CD player, it was like kind of a, oh man, we're so back moment. And then, yeah, just the rest of it. Like, the things I remember about this album, because like we talked about this a little bit before we like started going in earnest here, but I think I listened to this album in full. It might not have even been 2 times. It might have been 1 time, and then like a smattering of the songs going forward. But I only remember consciously listening to it once and being like pretty disappointed overall. Like, I think that overall, like, the swings that they took on this album were like kind of misses, like not even like in an interesting way like they were on Appeal to Reason, but just like there, I forget which song it is, but there's a riff that opens a song on here that just sounds like freaking Wish.com Pantera. And like I think at the time I was like, oh, this is something. And then, like, minutes later, I was like, this was nothing. This was legitimately nothing. Yeah, like, nothing aside from, like, Architects and, like, maybe a couple other songs on here, like, really stood out to me early on. And I think coming back to this now, I'm kind of realizing why. I think I'm a little more... I'm coming at this with a kinder heart than I think I did in 2011, but I think kind of like you, I might have checked out a little bit after this one, because this was the documentary we watched last week. I believe they were writing this album in the upstairs of the Metro during that doc, which was a thing that I was like, they went to the Metro and they got that spirit in them. This is going to be great. We're so back. This is awesome. This is going to be the Chicago album. And like, I don't know what I thought that meant, but it wasn't this.
I mean, yeah, they talk in the DVD about like the legacy of bands that write a record in the Top Note Theater. And feeling like they had a lot to live up to that way. But then in this interview with Absolute Punk that I read, Joe says that they felt really unprepared going into the studio. And so I was trying to like square that with what the album ends up being, which is like this. I feel like it feels like a mix of too comfortable and too like grasping, I think, because you were talking about some swings that are kind of misses, but at the same time they're working with the same producer, same mixer, same team that they've been working with for 3 straight albums now. And I think maybe externally there's a little bit more comfort. This is, I think, notably I hate to be the guy that's like, who's president affects how good punk music is, but like the albums that they made while Obama was president are pretty clearly their worst albums, I think, or less arguably black market than this one. But like, I think there's a comfort that they are just kind of in their lane and don't really want to get out of it too much, maybe. And that's something that I'm like picking up on in this album, I think.
I think I get that. The going into the studio like underprepared thing, that feels a little bit like Joe overstating it a little bit. He kind of couches that in like, well, like it's not that we didn't have the songs written, it was just that we didn't have all the parts in order. Yeah, and like it appears that like kind of the grander concept of this album, the idea of the world as we know it ending, and what we do with that, which Joe approaches from a how do we start over and make it a positive experience for everyone perspective. And I think that's kind of the viewpoint of the album overall. Like it seems like that all was mostly there, if not entirely there, based on that interview.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. What do you make of this idea that this is an album about the end of humanity, of mankind, or of our governments, our systems of power, and that like it would be better that it might be better to like burn it all down and start over, and that it's like a hopeful apocalyptic album? Like, does that come through in the album itself to you? I know that's like the kind of stated theme of the record.
It did not come through to me at all. I literally reading that article that we both read about like kind of this like grand sweeping narrative and like all of the like consistent characters in this album. I grasped this even less than I grasped the plot of Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, and that's saying a lot. Um, absent like being told, okay, this is what it's actually about. Like I can kind of retrofit it on now that I've read that, but I don't think it's evident in the text in the way that it feels like it's supposed to be based on that reading.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is in the closing track. I think
definitely.
The title track is where that's explicit. The rest of it is like, I think it's in there a little bit, and I think we'll kind of get to it in each song. But I think they do a thing in a lot of the songs where they like turn like change a lyric at the end to sort of turn a song from hopeless to hopeful in a way that is at least like kind of interesting. But yeah, my kind of initial reaction was to this album, listening back to it this week, was like, I wish this album was more of what they said that it was in the interviews, and a little less of like by the numbers rise against, because I think the ideas that they're talking about are worth writing about and could be a really interesting perspective, because like when you talk about like what if the end of all things was actually good, it's like how do you not just make that like an accelerationist mantra or whatever, like how do you make that something that's not like this actually sucks for everyone, that's an interesting question to ask, and I just don't know if the record answers it.
No, I don't think so. And like reading about what this record is supposed to be about, and like kind of reading a like third person interpretation of like what it is supposed to be. Like if I had read that kind of overview on like, okay, here's what the album's about, here's how all the songs fit this theme, here's like the overarching narrative that concludes at Endgame, like I would have thought that this album ruled, like but like it's just nothing about it, but very little about it lives up to the expectation that sets, I think, is kind of the disparity that's happening here.
Yeah, and I think we should just get into the songs, because one of the most kind of important thing about this record to me, or I don't know, important is maybe the wrong word, but like the most striking thing about this album to me is that none of it lives up to its opening track. This has Architects is truly, I think, I mean, it is in my top 5 Rise Against songs, maybe top 3. You could make an argument that it's my favorite, although I think a lot of RPM would beg to disagree with that. But
sure.
This song is, I just think, phenomenal. It is one of their most like galvanizing call to action sort of songs, and it almost feels like they're kind of clapping back at anyone who said they went soft on Appeal to Reason. Because this whole song is about how like, our heroes have mellowed with age, but we are not. We are not. We are still gonna live up to our ideals. And I think, did you find this one as exciting as I did?
Yeah, no, I think this song whips. Like it is. This is like I don't. It almost feels disparaging to call it classic Rise Against, but it has pretty much all the ingredients of a good Rise Against song, like as I canonically think about it. And not just like, this sounds like old Rise Against, because it doesn't really necessarily. I think it's just the best version of where they are in their career at this point. And like, I don't feel like that's hyperbolic to say.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And I mean, this song obviously made kind of waves for interpolating the lyric from Against Me as I Was a Teenage Anarchist, which we have to talk about. So
yes,
the I Was a Teenage Anarchist has the line, do you remember when you were young and you wanted to set the world on fire? Yep. And then this song takes that line and says, well, I still am and I still do, which set off a bit of a, I don't know about feud, but like I know Rise Against and Against Me have toured together. I imagine they're still somewhat friendly, but like I think Laura Jane Grace took issue with Tim McIlrath's reading of I Was a Teenage Anarchist as a song about growing out of your ideals, and I think it's I doubt that he really thinks that that's what that song is about, but I think it is a kind of funny sort of nudging, winking way to reinterpret that lyric, and I really like it. But I really love both of those songs, so I don't know if I'm the right one to judge there.
I think I'm unfortunately in that same boat, so I can't offer too much. On the contrary, I do like. I I can't imagine a world in which Tim is purely reading that song as, the classic. You're gonna get softer, like the thing that this song is railing against, like getting softer as you age, and like not even necessarily getting softer, but getting less less hardline in your ideals when those ideals are, the betterment of mankind, basically.
Yeah. Well, but like I Was a Teenage Anarchist is a song about how like the movement becomes commercialized and becomes watered down.
Exactly.
And I think that you as a person you get jaded because you feel like you don't align with what your peers became and what your movement became or whatever. And I think that Architects is sort of the same thing. And it's basically just sort of taking that one step further by just saying explicitly, like, yeah, we do still believe in all the things that we stood by before, which is that's like the change at the end of the song is like the song is all questions. It's all asking the listener, are you still the way that you were when you were young? And then the final lines are like, yes, we are. And I don't know, it's a trick they use a lot on this album, and it's the one thing about this album that I think really works.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think the overall effect of getting this song out of, whatever was going on in Tim's reading of that song is a net positive. So that's definitely good. The way Joe talked about it was like, yeah, like we harbor no ill will, but clearly like that inspired something in Tim. So like here we are.
Yeah. I just think it's a great song.
It is. It's a great song.
Yeah.
And I hope that everybody is cool with each other.
Same.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Probably.
After that is Help Is On the Way. This was the first single from this album. And I think it is like the most what you'd expect from Rise Against at this point. It's good, I guess, but I can already start to feel this album like missing some of the magic of Rise Against that I love as I get into the song. Even though I think it's like it fits what they like to do. It's about Hurricane Katrina, it's about Deepwater Horizon, and it's a critique to about the response to those like natural and man-made disasters. The idea that like the help is on the way is like is a sort of sarcastic, because then they say the help never comes. And I think it is, yeah, like I said, it's in line with what they do best, but it is missing a little something. What do you think of this one?
I think that's pretty much exactly how I feel. Like it is in concept a by the books Rise Against song. We see the way in which the United States has responded to a tragedy, and it is, for to put it charitably, disappointing. If not outright horrible. It is outright horrible. And we write a song about that, which we are sarcastically, saying help is on the way when it is in fact not. And we know it's not collectively. And I know that, I don't know that it was specifically around this song. Joe, in that Absolute Punk interview, was talking about, the way that the news cycle works and the way in which we are informed about things like this. Is just so like it keeps your attention on it for a while, and then the coverage stops, and the kind of thing that happens in the vast majority of people's minds is, the things are okay now. But like we were dealing with, the people in New Orleans were dealing with the after effects of Katrina for years, arguably still are dealing with the after effects of Katrina. It's just. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody was talking about it more than, let's say, several months after the actual hurricane hit. And that's so horrifying to like think that such a terrible event would just like not only fall out of the public consciousness, but basically, become the equivalent of okay in the minds of the general public.
Yeah, I think that's right on. Sorry, I was thinking about how weird it is that my greatest association with that is that time is Kanye West saying George Bush doesn't like black people.
Oh yeah, God, wow. Remember
Back
when Kanye was a public
good.
figure for slightly better reasons?
Yep. Yeah. But the other thing about this song that I think is sort of indicative of where the band is at this point is the bridge it's long and softer and has Tim like really singing in a way that he hasn't on an album before. Outside of like something like Swing Life Away. But that's juxtaposed with there's a bit at the beginning of the bridge where he screams the words like right here, right now.
Yeah.
Which like you can those two things juxtaposed right next to each other you can really feel how his voice has degraded is not the right word, but you can hear how the screaming is like wearing on his voice at this point.
Yeah.
And so the screams are fewer and further between, and then to put one right in that spot it just accentuates how much different he sounds on a lot of this album than on past albums.
Yeah, and like part of me wants to think that a well-placed Scream in a Rise Against song is like meant to be really, really meaningful, but as much as I kind of like that part still, it feels like it's there because they feel like it needs to be there. And I don't maybe mean that in a complimentary way.
Yeah, there's a few of those on this album that I was like, oh, he's doing this because to remind me, the listener, that he still can, but I want him to do it all the time.
Right.
Maybe not all the time, but more often.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess the one thing to talk about with the song is the music video, which is the music videos on this album are not as interesting as the ones on the previous records. This one is a lot of actual footage of New Orleans and the sort of recovery and from Katrina, and a lot of people up on the tops of their houses in the flooding and stuff like that. And it's obviously a harrowing video. The footage is horrifying to watch. But it ends with this a link to riseagainst.com/activism, which in a real bummer is a link that no longer works. You would think they would have kept that one up over the years.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. But whatever, websites change.
I would be interested to see when that page went away.
I mean, I'm guessing they just redesigned their whole website at some point in one of the album cycles. But yeah, I'm not reading too much into it. I was just like, oh, it would have been nice if that was still there.
Yeah,
all the internet should stay.
the internet should be forever, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I hate broken links. Yeah.
Hey, folks, this is Matt. As I'm editing the episode here, Troy and I just wanted to give y'all a heads up / content warning here. The next song we're talking about is Make It Stop, September's Children. For those who don't know, it is a song that centers around homophobia and suicide as a result of that. So if that is not something you want to hear discussed at all, we're going to put chapter markers around this song. So if you just skip past the section on September's Children, you will reach a part of the podcast where we're not going to be discussing that. We don't talk about anything graphic or anything like that. But if that is a subject you're sensitive to, please feel free to skip.
But after that is Make It Stop, September's Children. This is a song about teenagers who have committed suicide because of rampant homophobia. It is this is a song like, I think this is an important song, a song that I respect, but I do not like it as a Rise Against song. I am sorry to say.
It's not a good song. I feel like this happens a lot with well-meaning straight people. This is an important thing to talk about, and I think like I do acknowledge that like in the bridge, Tim like straight up saying the names of kids who have, or had at that point committed suicide, as a result of rampant homophobia. Like, I think that is the most bold and novel move that this song makes. And I think the rest of it just doesn't fucking live up to that.
I gotta say, shout out to like the Genius annotations who put each kid's picture with the annotation. That was very effective and a very like moving way to listen to the song. And it almost made me come around on it. But like, again, I don't like this song. I think it's like a bad Green Day cover. The tremolo guitar or the phaser guitar and the whoa-ohs and like I don't like this song.
Yeah, this is very mid to late 2000s like pop, not even pop punk, but like punk that is on the radio type stuff. And like that is where Rise Against is at this point. But like, yeah.
I'm perfectly willing to admit that I'm like not the target audience for this song. Like to me, it sounds trite, but like maybe it is actually would affect someone who doesn't share mine and the band's views on this stuff. But like I don't know. I hate, like, it's one of the, I feel bad being so negative about a song that I think was very well intentioned. But it's don't like it.
Yeah, I think what I ultimately want about a song, what I want from a song like this is for it to feel a little less surface level than this does. Like there's a line in the song, "Children shamed for those they chose to kiss." Like that's not a way to talk about gayness. Like that is a like, I am 12 degrees removed from this community and this is how I am talking about it. Like I understand it was for the rhyme probably, but like that line just rubs me the wrong way. Like using the word chose in any like context of talking about the LGBTQ community just like gives me the ick, for lack of a better way of putting it. And like, granted, like, yes, kissing somebody is a choice, but like and I know 2011 was a different time, I guess, but like looking at it in 2025, I just like, it just doesn't hit for me. And like, I hope that it hits for some people, because like this is the kind of song that I would love to think like changes minds, like just broadly changes minds, like makes somebody think, oh, there are people out there like me who are dealing with this, and there are people out there who love me despite all of that. And I hope that works for the people that it needs to work for. But yeah, like as it stands right now, I like it just doesn't hit the way I think that a song with this intense of a theme should.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if part of it is that it kind of switches perspective in each verse, and so it feels kind of a little scattershot in what it's, the persona, the perspective. I'm just kind of thinking about comparing it to something like Hero of War, that I think is like a song that is about, it is about the tragedy of a certain, section of the world, but I think that song is much more effective in its emotional resonance than this one is. I do like that they again add a tag to the end of the last chorus that is kind of empowering, and I think like points the song in a good direction at the end. But yeah, I just not a great song. I actually think this is like the worst Rise Against song, at least thus far in their catalog. I don't know. I don't really want to say more about it.
No, that's fair. I just want to kind of quickly dovetail off of you comparing this to Hero of War, because I think Hero of War is based on like real life accounts of the things that people have experienced. Like they have gotten like letters about this kind of stuff. Yeah. They have read account. Like this song feels like it is based on. It feels like it's based on the concept of its central conceit, is that there is rampant homophobia in the world, and that has caused people who are very young to kill themselves, and that is very, very tragic. Like, it sounds trite saying it like that, but like that is the core conceit of this song, and it feels like it was all built from that, with the exception of reading the names in the bridge, which again, like I think we both agree is like probably the single most effective part of this song. Like it feels like if there had been like a songwriting partner who like experienced being young and gay or lesbian or bisexual or trans or and any number of queer experiences as a young person, like I feel like we could have gotten a better song out of that. But since it's Rise Against kind of writing it in a vacuum, it just maybe doesn't produce the best product.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, we can be done with that one now.
No, that's fine. Next up is Disparity by Design. This is one that actually kind of stood out to me on this listen through this week. this is very much like a critique of the pull yourself up by the bootstraps narrative. It's kind of an anthem of class disparity.
Mm-hmm.
I think this song has a really good chorus and a lot of really good lyrics. What do you think of this one?
I think this song is really good. This is a fuck capitalism go home song if I've ever heard one.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I think this is, we talked a little bit about the idea of Rise Against doing something that's comfortable for them, but I think this is like maybe one of the better versions of that on this album, because like this is not untrod territory for them, but like it is very well executed familiar territory for them.
Yeah, I think that is right on. And it is also another song that kind of that like hints a little bit at this idea of like the end of all the systems that are in place in the world could be a good thing. Because there's this idea in the bridge of like a threat of the 99% or whatever sort of overtaking the rich. And like this idea that that could lead to a world where we're all more equal or see ourselves as more as equals is like that's kind of the first place on this album where I think it starts to get to the stated theme. But mostly, yeah, I just think this is a very catchy chorus that was stuck in my head a lot. And again, this is like it's one of those things where it's I always have to wonder if like these songs are more effective on someone who doesn't already agree with them. Because I'm listening to the song, just nodding my head, and it's like, yep, all that's right, yep,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, this is definitely one of those songs where like I would love to think that a line like we've pulled on these bootstraps so hard that they broke would like hit real good for somebody who is, working way too hard for basically nothing, but still kind of believes that capitalism is working for them. I doubt that's happening.
Can we get the I'm a conservative Republican and a Rise Against fan guy back and have him comment on it?
God, we should have gotten him as a guest.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I probably would have hated that so much.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything else on Disparity by Design?
No, like the only other note I had on this song is that the bridge opening is sick on this one.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I overall just a really solid song, which unfortunately makes it difficult to talk about at length.
Yeah. We always talk about like a bad song sandwich between two good songs on a lot of these albums that we've talked about. This is a good song sandwich between, I think, two bad songs, because I also don't think Satellite is a very good Rise Against song. I think it's one of the most generic singles they have ever released. It's the most like to me at least, it's the most kind of like vague call to action, call to resistance song, but like, what are you fighting against? I don't know. Not a big fan of this one. What about you?
I have one note on this song, and it is one line, and it is great bridge, but the rest of this song is just fine, catchy, but like a little non-specific. I don't know.
Well,
that's the whole note.
The bridge is interesting because the song seems to be a song about like standing your ground, and yet the bridge is all about running away. It's like those two parts of the song just don't fit together at all.
Yeah.
That really struck me on this, as I was like, I mean, the won't back down, won't run and hide thing is catchy and it's stuck in my head, and then it's like, oh, but this whole bridge is like, let's leave. I don't know.
We won't back down from our ideals when we formed our own society on an island.
Yeah, I mean that's some Atlas Shrugged shit. Yeah, I just the single choices for this album outside of Help Is On the Way, I think, are just like bafflingly bad. Yeah, they really I really don't think they sold this album well, although I guess they sold it accurately.
Yeah, I guess.
They did make a music video for this song, but it's really just kind of like live footage. I kind of half-heartedly looked for myself in it because it looked like some of it was shot at definitely at the tour that I went to, and maybe at one of the show I was at, but I don't think you would be able to find me.
Where was that show? Because I was probably also at it.
It was at Assembly Hall in Urbana.
Then I definitely was not.
Yeah, I would have been surprised if you came all the way down to Urbana to see that tour.
No, I would not have done that. I have been to Urbana one time in my life.
It was a good show. It was with Bad Religion and 4 Year Strong.
That rules.
Yeah, kind of this we brought out one of our influences and one band that was very influenced by us. So that it was kind of a fun like passing of the torch sort of tour. Because right after that, 4 Year Strong gets even bigger because they're still touring on the first album. Enemy of the World comes out right after that. They were giving out CDRs with the singles from Enemy of the World on it at their merch table. So that was like a cool time to see them. Bad Religion is obviously always good. Fun time.
Yeah, definitely. I think I went to one of the Chicago shows on this tour. They were both at the Aragon. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I'm like 90% sure I went to this tour.
Yeah, and like, I mean, for as much as I'm kind of ragging on this album, they were great live. The songs they played from this album were really fun. And I think they have continued to be a great live band, even when I've seen them on their worst album cycles.
May I offer up a fun fact about at least the set list I'm looking at, if not the set list for the whole tour?
Yes.
The encore is Entertainment, then Savior, and then it's not done at Savior. They play Give It All after that, and that's the end of the set.
That was what they did at my show.
That's beautiful. That's what I want. That's all I want.
is to end with Give It All.
Just end with Give It All.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Next up is Midnight Hands. This might be the song that you were talking about.
This is not the one that I was talking about.
It's the other Southern
it's the other
rock
one.
riff. Okay, because this is like this comes on. And I'm like, oh, this is a different guitar tone, a kind of different style of riff. Haven't heard them play something like this before. The whole thing sounds kind of Southern rocky, which is cool to try, I guess. I don't know that it entirely lands for me. Much like the song as a whole doesn't entirely land for me. What about you?
Yeah, this song kind of starts off. I mean, it obviously starts off odd because we've got this like kind of Southern rock, like really like rollicking guitar riff, which I am 100% sure is like written almost exclusively by Zach. Just given his background, maybe not, but the way that Tim's vocals come in on this song just like doesn't feel right. Like it takes a really long, like several lines for him to settle into feeling like he's singing along with that riff. And then like for the most part, like until about 3/4 of the way through the song, like the vocal energy and the instrumental energy is just like there's a gulf between them in a way that I would expect Rise Against to be able to bridge a lot better.
Yeah, that's a better way of stating the problems I have with the song, I think. Yeah, I just think it's like even just looking at it more from a writing perspective, like I think it's Tim in kind of his storytelling mode. But like whereas I thought a lot of the imagery on something like Approaching Curve was really gripping, this is just not. There's like a lack of specificity to it, or when there is specificity, it's like I don't even know what they're talking about. Like where is the bridge? Like you don't have to do this, and I forgive you if you don't. Is like an interesting line, but I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I mean I guess the idea of like the Midnight Hands as like the unseen forces that move the world is what I assume he's getting at with that with that image, but like again, it's just nothing is spelled out in the way that I want it to be in the song or that I think is effective.
Yeah, there's a big difference between not doing things in a way that is too obvious and doing things in a way that is just obtuse for the sake of being obtuse, which kind of feels like where this song is leaning lyrically.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, just not a highlight of this album.
Yeah, we do get Matt Skiba at the end of this song though, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's true. He is there. Not the most interesting feature either, but
no, truly, I had no idea until I looked on Genius.com and it told me that Matt Skiba was singing it at the end, and I was like, oh, I guess I hear him kinda now.
Yeah, same. All right. After that is Survivor's Guilt. This is a really ambitious song, I think. I was kind of struck by everything that's going on here. It is a sort of a touching on some of the same like anti-war or like war is absurd and terrible themes that they've gone to in the past, and then is very much inspired by Catch-22 with samples from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this one?
So, I mean, reading it as a sequel to Hero of War, which it is expressly apparently supposed to be. I find the concept of doing a sequel song like that interesting. Like, we've seen other bands do that in the past, although, maybe a little better. I don't know. Like, I think the concept behind this song is interesting. In that it kind of further explores, like, okay, that, like, we are now in the territory of what happens after the story that you already know. And the story when it comes to veterans, and especially veterans who, like, don't want to be involved with the United States military anymore, is it bad. It's bad. It's bad for people even if they do kind of still want to be involved in the military, but, like, if you go into recruitment, you're pretty set. But, like, this, I think, does an okay job of, like, kind of acknowledging, like, yeah, you did all this stuff for your country, and now you're kind of getting jack shit for it. But I think it could do a better job of that also.
Yeah, I do think it has a very effective bridge when they get really, really fast. And again, that's like a part where my ears perk up. It's like, ooh, this is the Rise Against I Love again. I think that part is really effective. And yeah, I think the quotes from Catch-22 are great, and I think that those do more to get the point of the song across than the song's lyrics do, which is maybe not what you want. But I think this is one where I felt like they were trying something different, and I don't want to say that it fully worked, but I'll at least acknowledge it.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by this song. I think it could have been executed better, but I think there's enough here that I'm not, like, casting it aside as, like, oh no, this is just another mediocre song on a mediocre kind of album.
Yeah, for sure. Now, a mediocre song on a mediocre album is about how I feel about Broken Mirrors.
Yeah, this is discount Pantera.
Yeah, it's another southern rock riff. It's you get a little more of the Endgame type imagery here in the first verse, but I just think the sort of focus of this song is like the broken mirror reflection of an unfamiliar face. It's just not an interesting image, and that it gets kind of run into the ground throughout the song.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, that's, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't have many notes on this song except for about, we have Pantera at home. Sorry, we have Walk by Pantera at home specifically, because that's the only Pantera song I know offhand. But this riff does sound like a kind of pale imitation of that. Yeah, I don't know, like, nothing else about this song stuck with me except that I think the intro riff is kind of ass, which is a pretty bad thing to have stick.
Yeah, I don't know. We're this whole middle section of this album, I just feel like we don't have a lot of nice things to say about it. And I don't know if it's just indicative of the band not really knowing what they want to do, or feeling kind of like they don't want to repeat themselves, but also don't know where to go. I guess that's probably the best I can interpret it.
Yeah, like, I kind of going back to the broader concept of the album. Like, I know that like Help Is on the Way is, like, maybe not our collective favorite song on this album, but I think where the interesting thing about this broader album concept could have laid is, we've got this kind of this thing we'll get to in Endgame, and this thing that we kind of allude to here, where there's just this apocalyptic vision of, like, the end of the world as we know it, and and again, us stepping back and seeing, like, what can be done with that, and in what ways might that lead to better things down the line. Obviously, like, the end of the world as we know it, not inherently good, but, like, you have to extract meaning where you can. This is true of all things. But, like, we have these kind of, like, explicit, like, apocalyptic, like, images, but, like, on songs like Help Is on the Way, like, we also get kind of glimpses of that, but rooted in, like, the real world. And I think the intersection of, like, where the world as we know it is actually ending, and, like, the kind of evangelical, like, we get this every 2 years that the world has been prophesized to end in fire and brimstone type thing, like, those two have like common intersection points, and I think that that's what this album wants to be about and doesn't quite get to. And I think it's like kind of evident on this song.
Yeah, that is a great way to state it. I think that, and that kind of ties in that eschatology of Endgame article that I put in the show notes, that I think is like the most anyone has ever thought about this album is probably writing
definitely
when that article was written.
I got to the end of that article and I was like, am I just stupid? Like, do I not enjoy good things? And the answer is no. It's just not there.
Yeah, but no, I think you're right. Like, all of these songs are kind of different angles of like this album not living up to its to what it wants to be. Which I guess we should. I mean, I would include "Wait for Me" in that. As we keep going on the songs, I think this is like the only kind of sort of ballad on here. They don't do an acoustic track on this one or anything. But it's just kind of a slower song that starts off kind of slow and then gets to rocking pretty quickly. I guess this is a song about like not wanting to be left behind by a friend, a family, or whatever, as the world is changing or ending. But I don't find a lot of interest in this song. Do you like this one?
Not really. Like it, despite the fact that it picks up after it like kind of starts off pretty mellow, like it just feels low energy, and like there's a huge difference between a chill song and a low energy song. I think the bass part on this song rules though, but hey, what do you know? It's Joe. We love Joe. We're always going to love Joe. He's always going to be good.
Yeah, they talk about this song in the interviews as like being like a balance to the heavier stuff on the album, which I don't think it really accomplishes because it doesn't really lean into the quiet parts at all.
Yeah, no, we know Rise Against is capable of doing that too.
Yeah, even something like Roadside does it in a more interesting way than this, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and not a lot more to say about that one, I don't think. Then onto Gentleman's Coup. This one is weird. I love the opening guitar riff in this song. And I guess it's maybe weird is the wrong word, but it's probably their most outwardly anarchist song, I think. Because the whole song is basically just about striving for a world with no government, right? That like, they're basically just saying that all regime change ends up being like, look at the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah, that is a pretty succinct explanation of what's going on here.
Yeah,
and yet it's still kind of non-specific somehow.
A little bit, yeah. I guess the choruses are pretty non-specific. There's a lot of, I guess the verses have some like nuclear fallout imagery in there, which kind of tends back towards the end of the world stuff. It also is kind of a critique of the idea that like there's all this infighting on the left or whatever, that the left doesn't know what they're doing because they can't even agree with each other. And I think that's like an interesting thing to point out in a song like this. But yeah, I don't know. I think you're right that it's one of those things that, like, it wants to be a little more cutting than it is because it loses the specificity somewhere.
Yeah, and like, just musically, like it loses what it has in the beginning pretty quickly. Like I went into this song being like, oh yeah, this song kind of rules, and then like less than 30 seconds later, kind of completely lost that and did not pick it back up.
Yeah. What do you make of the title?
I don't know, man. It's probably a reference to something I haven't read.
I was trying to. I thought it would be too, and I could not find it. It kept making me think of The Business Plot, the 30s like fascist attempt to take over to oust FDR, and have like fascist businessmen take over. But I don't think that's actually what it is. Like, as I'm thinking about it, like, I kind of think it's just a reference to the idea that like all, like the idea that I was talking about, that like all revolutions end up being like basically the same people in power anyway, and that any kind of successful revolution seems to just get co-opted by the rich or whatever. But I don't really know. The title is one of the most like intriguing things about the song to me, I think.
Yeah, I think if this song had been less about like I'm gonna say actual revolution with like kind of scare quotes around it, but like less about actual revolution and more about like operating within the lines of the current regime to try to quote unquote enact change from within. Like that I could see like aligning with the title a little bit more than what's going on here. But like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it means.
Yeah. We're just, I don't know, I feel like we're just kind of like stumbling through this album because it's just not that interesting to talk about.
But what I think we have on this album that we maybe haven't had on albums that we've liked not so much in the past is that I think we both see the disparity between what this album was supposed to be and what this album actually is, which is like it's kind of a nice thing to have this like kind of tome about like, here is the concept of this album and here is why it is interesting, and then having the actual artifact of the album to compare it against, which is, it doesn't live up to that at all, which I think is way more interesting than just, album kind of bad.
Yeah, I agree. Although it's funny that I'm saying that right as we get into This Is Letting Go, which I actually think is a really good song.
It's a pretty good song.
Yeah, and I mean, the bar is lower on this album than it's ever been before, but like this is a top 3 song on this album for me.
Definitely.
It's I guess it's a song about like sort of resetting your expectations as you age and as your like kind of station in life changes. But I just think it's kind of like the Dirt Whispered, just like a really, really good Rise Against This pop punk band song. With a great chorus that I just, would kind of just be humming along to all week as I was even when I wasn't listening to the album.
Yeah, no, like right from the go, like the opening line, "Once upon a time I could take anything," which I'm doing the Krista Makes thing where I'm reading it as like not in the cadence. Like they do the thing that I love where that line both opens and closes the song, and I do genuinely maybe think that's the best part of the song, but like I'm putting that as a high bar, so like I think the rest of the song mostly lives up to it.
Yeah, I don't have a ton more to say about it. Just it is a this just feels like a band writing like the kind of song they're capable of writing, living up to what I know they can do. It's just solid.
Definitely. I think the only other like standout type thing, I guess, is that like I really think that the bridge has one of those like, it has one of those Zach riffs that like I associate positively with Zach. Like I'm like, this is what this man brings to this band, and I think it's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I always like seeing because I think Zach Blair is a super cool dude, and it is maybe a little unfortunate that he came to the band at the time that he did, because my feelings about them have turned a little bit in that specific frame of time.
Yeah, I don't think it's his fault though.
No, it's definitely not his fault at all, and that's why I want to give him as much credit as possible.
Yeah. All right. And the next up is Endgame, the title track, the closing track. This has the classic Rise Against bass intro.
Yes, it does.
And then after that, I don't know. But that bit of it got me so excited. I was like, ooh, we're in for a really good closing track here. And I think it's a better closing track than Whereabouts Unknown. But this is kind of the explicit like apocalypse tale. Like the people, you just think about this as like you see this in movies all the time. It's just like, here's the people that are left as the world is burning, like telling stories around a fire, talking about how the world used to be and what they're going to do next. It's kind of like cliche in that way. But this is really where Tim kind of like drives home the like hope at the end, at and beyond the end of the world idea of this album.
Yeah, it feels like it's doing not its best. It feels like it is trying to live up to being a title track on an album that has this grand concept.
Yep.
And I don't think it really, aside from the bass intro, like really, like lyrically it covers a lot of the bases that I think it's trying to cover, but like it just doesn't, the whole package doesn't come together to like feel like this really grand like culmination of everything we've heard so far, which, again, is varying degrees of quality. But I would expect a song that's like trying to be as ambitious as this to be a little more ambitious and maybe land a little better as a result.
So I gotta ask, is this song, and maybe this album as a whole, but especially this song, landing a little flat for us because in the 14 years since it has come out, we have come to see that like the end times are so much dumber than we thought they would be.
I mean, yes.
Like,
yeah,
I
it definitely
couldn't
hits different as a result of that.
I couldn't help thinking about that so much in the song. Like, I mean, the song has reference to like disease with no antidote tearing us apart. It has reference to like, you know, to panic, to paranoia, to, you know, climate disaster, to I mean, I think the nuclear stuff is implied, like, but like what we really see, what feels like the end of the world to us now is like the systematic destruction of the institutions that are in place to ostensibly to help people, which is maybe that's my problem with this record, is that like I feel like we're living through a time when the you know the Elon Musks of the world are tearing down the government specifically the parts of it that were actually functioning to help people. And I feel like the sort of like anarchist, the idea presented in A Gentleman's Coup, which is like, what if we had no governments, would not lead to a better world. But maybe that's just like the institutionalist in me. I don't know if there's something there. It's I feel like to me it's part of the reason why this album doesn't work, especially now.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's yeah, this feels like it's an album that was not prepared for
2020.
2020 literal fascism, literal oligarchy, like actually being enacted in ways that are less subtle than they were at the time, which, like, don't get it twisted, like rich people have had a lot of power for our collective history, like that's how it's been, but it's maybe not been as in the public eye as it is now at this point in our collective history, 2011 as compared to 2025. The hopefulness feels like it lands a little flat, I think partially as a result of that and partially as a result of like the song and maybe the album as a whole, like not quite being on the level that it needed to be even at the time. But I don't know. But like, yeah, I definitely don't think time has been kind to this album at all. But I also don't know that it was much better 14 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that. And that's kind of where I landed on it too. A few great songs, and a lot of mid, I guess.
Yeah, mid is the word.
Yeah. There are a few bonus tracks though that we can talk about. There's Lanterns, which is kind of the sort of proper B-side. Feels a little bit like kind of classic Rise Against to me, but with a chorus that just doesn't elevate the song at all. In a weird way. What did you think of this one?
My literal note on this is pretty standard Rise Against fare here. Not a lot to say. One of those songs where the vocals feel almost phoned in. So pretty much what you said, but in fewer words.
Yeah, and I think Dirt and Roses is kind of the same way. It's the song from the Avengers soundtrack, which kind of made me miss when like the Spider-Man soundtracks had like some of the band's best songs on them.
Oh God, I made a joke about Vindicated the other day, and I felt really good about that.
It's a great song.
I don't think I dislike Dirt and Roses. I think it's there's a couple of interesting things where there are like some vocal lilts that feel intentional that like Tim like really hasn't done before or since, and there's like some off-kilter guitar stuff that happens, but overall like not an incredible song by any means, but I think a little better than some of the stuff on this album overall, for me at least.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's all about the same level for me.
Fair. I get that.
So, and then after that is they've got a handful of covers that are on various comps and splits around this time. There's a cover of Blind by Face to Face that I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a live recording of them covering Ghost of Tom Joad with Tom Morello and Brian Fallon, which I think is mostly notable because the liner notes for this album are just quotes from the Grapes of Wrath, which is cool.
Yeah.
Some it's Steinbeck, it's great writing. But I don't know. Do you have anything on either of those? I really want to talk about the Ballad of Hollis Brown cover.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about that. I do want to add that Wayne Kramer is also on that live Ghost of Tom Joad
yes.
from MC5. Did we miss Blind? Was that not actually from this era? Did I put that on my playlist by mistake?
No, I mentioned it. It's on this era.
Oh, okay, cool.
The face-to-face split comes out like right around the same time.
Okay, that's where that was. Okay, sorry, I somehow blew past that. I kind of like that song actually.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. But yeah, not much more to say about it except that like there's like a little bit of Get Up Kids energy in that song, which I think kind of alludes to like the pop punk Rise Against maybe actually good ? Definitely actually good.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about Ballad of Hollis Brown.
Yeah, so this is a Bob Dylan cover, and this is, I think, a very apt song for Rise Against to cover, for one, that it's like about a person driven by the desperation of their economic situation or other kind of insanity to murder their family. It's a really gripping, sad, horrific song. But in Bob Dylan's version, it's just him with an acoustic guitar. And Rise Against went all out on this. There is like this song is like 8 minutes long. Each stanza has different layers and textures and production ideas and stuff that come into it. And I gotta say, this is like a big pet peeve of mine is when bands cover Bob Dylan and they don't play the whole song. See also Anne Boleyn and My Chemical Romance.
Yep.
But this one, they did it. They did the whole thing, and they did it in a really creative, cool way, and I really like this cover.
Yeah, this is very much in the camp of making the song your own, but still honoring the kind of energy of the original. Like, yeah, this is an incredible cover, honestly.
It's so good. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's all the songs.
That's all I have.
Yeah. Not a ton of B-sides and bonus tracks and stuff from this era, but some fun ones. Seek out that Bob Dylan cover.
Definitely.
Yeah. We should do some random recs. What do you got for this week?
I almost want to go really generic on this one, but I don't really want to just recommend that everybody go to the Music Box in Chicago, because maybe not everyone listening is around here. So instead,
go to your local theater.
Go to your local theater. Definitely do that. It's magical. We went a long time without recording. We're recording this episode 2 days before it comes out, which is unusual for us. But I've spent the last like week and a half ish in and out of the Music Box here in Chicago, watching David Lynch films and David Lynch adjacent films, and I think I specifically want to recommend that people watch Inland Empire, but watch Inland Empire at a theater. It is a 3-hour long movie, which features Laura Dern doing the most acting I think I've ever seen anybody do ever. And it is much like most other David Lynch films, of which I saw a lot for the first time, which is a little embarrassing for me, but I'm going to admit it here on mic. I really feel like it's a masterpiece, and I can't quite explain why, but like the way in which it builds tension and releases that tension over the course of what is like objectively a very long runtime is like masterfully done. I have a crap attention span, and I have a hard time like being fully engaged in even in like the theater going experience. Like I'm a lot better at paying attention in the theater than I am at home because I have fewer distractions. But like this movie gripped me for the full 3 hours, and I only felt its length because I kind of had to pee like a third of the way through the movie. But yeah, Inland Empire, great movie. May we all consider Laura Dern all the time. Go watch it. If you have a big TV, you can probably watch it at home, but if you can see it in the theater, I'd highly recommend it because it's kind of magical in the theater.
I just want to, this is a crazy movie, but I won't go on too long about it. I just want to say this is also the movie, I believe, where David Lynch mounted an Oscar campaign for Laura Dern by just sitting out on the street with a cow.
Yes.
Which is really funny.
There was a short film, not a short film. It was literally just someone's phone camera. Like, I think it was like Matt and Nate Meet David Lynch or something was the name of it. And it was just these two dudes driving through Los Angeles, and they were like, "Is that a cow?" is that David Lynch? And it's just like just them like briefly interacting with him. And it's, for people who haven't seen, the tagline of this movie is "A Woman in Trouble." And when one of the people in this short video asks David Lynch what the film's about, that's literally all he says. And just, talks up Laura Dern as David Lynch is often wont to do.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Great. Super, super good.
All right. For my recommendation, I am going to go with the album Smile by Porter Robinson.
Yes.
Porter Robinson is he came up as like kind of a protege of Skrillex in that like dubstep EDM world, and has since branched out into, he still makes sort of EDM centered music, but he's incorporated a lot more vocals, a lot more sort of rock songwriting. I got turned on to Porter Robinson by our friend Matt Alpo. He sent me a live set from the Nurture era, his like previous album, that is mesmerizing. And then I was very excited for Smile when it came out. I liked it a lot when it was released. But I went back to it this week because Porter Robinson was on the recent episode of Tape Notes, this wonderful podcast if you're a music production nerd. And he was talking about crafting these songs, about how he wanted to make a guitar record, so he learned how to play guitar, which he did not know how to do before. And he just has such an interesting perspective on a lot of the themes of the album: nostalgia, love, happiness, and also just this idea of like he felt like he was discovering a lot of things that felt like mega pop culture things that he had missed out on because he just wasn't interested in them, like hearing the Killers for the first time when you're 20 years later or whatever. And I don't know, it's a wonderful. I'm really recommending this episode of Tape Notes along with the album. But they're both great, and definitely check those out.
Yeah, great album. It's always the rate at which genres are melding together nowadays in like largely positive ways is so heartening to me. Like the ways in which people are wearing their influences on their sleeves, but also taking this really novel approach to working towards making a record that sounds like what they're getting out of that type of music.
Yeah, that's like a thing that comes through in that interview is he's so earnest about his like this is what I'm interested in, and so I want to make a thing that sounds like the thing that I'm interested in. And then he's through the lyrics is also like questioning that, is like, is this just nostalgia? Is this what are these feelings like? How do I process them? It's great stuff. I love it.
Yeah, definitely good album, straight up. I haven't listened to that episode of Tape Notes yet, but I definitely will because that podcast does rule.
Yeah, it's one of the best. All right, we will be back next week talking about The Black Market. I'm going to apologize in advance if you are listening along. That album is, spoiler alert, bad. But we'll dig into why next week. In the meantime, find us on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com or noisefloorpod on Instagram. And we will see you soon.
See you soon.